Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, it's family again.
We love family.
Oh, this is the Olive Garden, because when you're here, you're family, baby.
We love family and Vin Diesel.
And Vin Diesel. It's a hot month for Vin.
And a little bit of Michael Rooker as well.
Oh, yeah.
Just sneaking in. I'm just going to throw that in here. He snuck into our May as well.
A double Rooker May and a double Vin. Mm-hmm, wow.
I mean, a triple Vin, because we're doing Fast X next week.
I guess a triple Vin. Because
I don't know if Rooker's coming back for X.
Yeah, I doubt we're going to get a hit of more flashback Rooker action. But yes, we are building up to next week. We'll be talking about Fast X. And this week, we are talking about F9 The Fast Saga.
Woo! We talk about titles on a lot of movies that we cover, and we could do a whole episode on the Furious movies.
But
or the Fast movies, or whatever name you want to call them.
Every time we've covered this franchise, I love this, though.
Yeah, the lack of continuity is superb.
It's in itself continuity. Like, it has its own, it is reliably inconsistent.
Absolutely.
And I love that. It's just go buck wild.
Yeah, I know which movie each one is, no problem. In a way that no other franchise I have grasped. I know exactly which one, especially a long franchise. We're on 9.
And at the end,
I know exactly which weirdo number name matches up to which movie.
And that's fun.
That's fun.
And at the end of the day, even if you don't match it up right, who cares? Who cares?
It's pretty lighthearted fun.
Have a little fun. It's when things are pretentiously too much is when I start losing it. But I'm still furious that Now You See Me Too was not called And Now You Don't.
The whole world is. That's what killed the franchise.
The
naming scheme.
Honestly,
yeah.
You called that movie And Now You Don't, you might get a third film.
What's the third one called?
Of the See Me franchise. I don't know what the third one is.
The See Me franchise.
Yeah.
Abracadabra of the See Me franchise.
Of the See Me franchise, yeah.
Hocus pocus.
Yeah. Now you see me, now you don't. I'm back again. I don't know what you would call, but you would get more. So I respect the true insanity of this franchise. And if you want to hear us, by the way, talk more about this, we also covered the first film. We covered The Fast and The Furious over on our Patreon page as our Patreon monthly exclusive over at patreon.com/FromSuperheroes. We talk about the first Fast and Furious movie, where they're all just babies.
Just babies who get taken out and defeated by a nameless driver with one shotgun. And watching that movie and then jumping to F9 where they go to space is a fucking trip, let me tell you.
A real wild ride to see a trucker, the only person who has defeated this crew.
Absolutely decimated them.
One dude, one trucker took it all down.
No one's getting those DVD VHS combos in his truck.
Yeah, but once we have a satellite that can control all computer chips on Earth in a maximum overdrive type horror fashion like F9, you can't stop the crew from that.
No problem. They got no problem with that. No one had a shotgun in this movie.
If that truck driver was in charge, this would be a very different film. So head over to the Patreon page if you want to hear us talk about the first one. We're talking about F9 today on the podcast. And before we get into it, we want to thank our wonderful sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at tpublic.com.
At tpublic.com, you're going to get your next favorite t-shirt or tank top or hoodie or long sleeve shirt or mug or phone case with a wonderful design made by an indie artist who's getting a fair commission for their work. It's getting a little warm. It might be tank top season.
Sun's
or
out, guns out.
Or t-shirt season, depending on how you feeling.
Get it out there. Have fun. Don't let the name fool you. There's so many different cuts, designs, and types of products that you can get from tpublic.com with these cool designs on them. One that I am liking this week of the independent designs submitted by independent artists. One I am liking is called King of the Monsters versus Dragon Zord, and it is a wonderful photo of Godzilla fighting the Dragon Zord, and I'm like, that's the true Mechagodzilla that lives in my heart. It is the Dragon Zord. So I love this. It's also just a beautiful art style as well that has the Great Wave, that kind of famous oil painting drawing. I don't know what famous piece of art. So it has the Great Wave and Dragon Zord and Godzilla, and it's just a cool style and it looks amazing.
It is a really, really cool shirt. My shirt in honor of John Cena in this movie is a Peacemaker shirt, and it's Eagly shirt in the style of the U.S. Postal Service. And what I like about this shirt is it highlights TeePublic that you can get your shirt in different colors to match whatever you're getting the logo on. Because this shirt, they recommend you get it in blue because then it really, really pops. And you can get like almost any color in your TeePublic shirts. There's so much variety. It's so cool. All the choices are yours.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of choice that you have there between all of these. And when you shop through our storefront, you also directly support this podcast as well as supporting the artist who designed that particular design. So if you want to see any of the ones we just mentioned, any of the ones we previously recommended on the podcast, or other ones that we just think are cool, sometimes own ourselves, head over to our storefront at teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. That is teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. And when you shop through that store link, you support us, you support the artist, and you get your next favorite item right there from TeePublic. And thank you, TeePublic, for your support.
Thank you so much, TeePublic.
And now let's get into the episode. Let's talk about F9 The Fast Saga. All right, we have seen F9 as we have many of this family.
This whole family. I think I've seen all of them but 4. 4's never made it onto the radar.
I've seen 4, but I've never rewatched 4. I think I've never seen Tokyo Drift, which is 3. I don't think I've seen Tokyo Drift in its entirety.
I feel like I've half seen it. Like a hotel room.
I think I've seen
something?
the first half in a hotel room and the second half in a different hotel room at some point.
Yeah, the worlds collide.
Yeah.
That feels very appropriate for the Fast and the Furious franchise, actually, you know?
How it's meant to be seen.
Half on one TV and half on a different one with different commercials, different editing.
Different city. It don't matter. We're doing it.
It's all family.
It's all family. So this is F9, The Fast Saga, the 9th film of the Fast franchise. Diana, did you like it?
I don't especially like this movie, no. And I'm sad to say that. It's easily my least favorite of the Fast movies I've seen. It's got great ideas that are executed quite poorly, I think is its biggest problem. It's not exciting and it's not funny, but you look at the script and you're like, oh, those ideas were exciting and funny and entertaining, and they are not filmed in a way or edited in a way, I don't know which one was the problem, that is popping on screen, that is making me care about the characters or the action sequences. So none of the humor really lands. There's some characters who have no chemistry and act like they have big laughs happening. I'm mostly talking about the rocket car guys, and they are just nothing, absolutely nothing. So this one has the least emotional resonance and the least exciting action sequences, despite being really expensive and feeling like it should be better than it is. You're like, this feels like I should be enjoying it more than I am. And it's a little upsetting to watch for that reason for me. So yeah, I don't really like this one. I didn't like rewatching it. It's the second time we watched it. And for some reason I was like, I think it'll be better this time. And it wasn't. It's still not very good. So very sad to say, I do not especially like F9, The Fast Saga. Andrew, how did you feel?
I find it. I find it. I don't think I dislike it as much as you, but I definitely don't love it. It's definitely not one of my favorites. It's not one that I would rush to watch. There was some stuff actually on rewatch that I did appreciate more on this one. Not necessarily even about the construction of this movie necessarily, but there were some performances that I appreciated more. You know how sometimes when it's when a movie isn't necessarily the best, you almost appreciate more and notice more who really is giving it their all and who's elevating it. Because in the good ones, when everything goes right, everyone seems good.
Okay.
You know, when everything goes right in a movie, everyone seems good.
They're all popping. There's chemistry. You're no one's bringing this down.
And it's rare to see a movie get 10 films for you to see the highs and lows and notice who it is that is underappreciated over, who's popping off. So there were some things definitely that I was oh wow, good. I had some nice moments of appreciation in here. And I think it is fine. I think it is just not as fun as it thinks it is.
It thinks it's pretty fun,
right? It thinks it's a lot of fun.
It thinks magnets are so cool.
Yeah.
And space is just enough that you don't even need to make the space sequence great. They're like, we went to space, so that's enough.
So we did it, and that's it. And I agree, it's just like a lot of the comedy doesn't land. I agree with you with like the rocket guys. It's like, okay, this doesn't quite work. The new villains don't work. Cena is underutilized. So there's a lot of like villain problems where it's like, no one in this movie is as fun as The Rock was, or Jason Statham was, or I don't know the name of the actor who played Jason Statham's brother, or as that dude even was. Like, no one is as fun as any of the past villains of this franchise. Everyone's kind of like being a little bit stiff, and it's just not fun, but it's fine.
But it's fine. I guess it is fine. Yeah, like if I'd seen this in a vacuum of no other Furious movies, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, this was just a fine action movie. Whatever. It's a 90s action movie. But yeah, like everyone is underutilized. Losing The Rock and Statham is huge, I think, because like I don't think I realized how much energy and charm and charisma they brought because it is such an ensemble, but you lose both of them and it's like, ooh, that is clearly lacking.
This hurts.
This hurts. And you think you would get it back through Cena, who is so charming and funny on Peacemaker, and they don't give him a single comedy line in this movie, which is such a huge misstep. Like, not that these are like straight up comedies, but like, when I compare what he can do in Peacemaker to this just nothing performance, I'm like, they really didn't give you anything to work with, huh?
It is a real shame because I agree with you. In Peacemaker, he's great. And in a lot of roles, he's very comedically talented. He's done a lot of like just straight up comedies that he works in. Trainwreck, Blockers. Like, this is a man who actually has a pretty good comedic range. Like, in terms of wrestlers turned actors, like, he's no like Dave Bautista. You're not going to see him do like an Oscar-worthy scene in Blade Runner, but he has wide comedic range and he has a lot that he can do that he isn't doing in this. And it feels like they wrote a character that was like, they wrote it to match Dom and not match the actor that was cast.
Yeah.
So it feels like before they got Cena, they wrote a character who was like, this is a guy who's just going to stand around and look like Dom and will be Dom's motivation. And this will be the brother of Vin Diesel. This is another Toretto. And much like Dom, even though he is the lead of all of these movies, there are some movies where Vin only has like 9 to 10 lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
It's such an ensemble. And even when he's in a lot of the scenes, he's the quieter of a lot of the characters. He's the one who, like, when he talks, everyone listens because they know that like he has something to say. He's not the mouth. So I think they wrote it to be a parallel of that and never rewrote it to utilize that John Cena was cast.
I think I can get behind that. Yeah, now that I think about it, I'm like, did young Dom have more lines than Vin Diesel did in this movie? Which is all Dom, technically.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. Yeah, because John Cena is great at comedy. I mean, even like years ago, he guest starred on like season 3 of Psych, and it stuck in my head as one of the funniest episodes of Psych I'd ever seen. Like,
yes, I've never seen a man so big he couldn't hide behind a plane.
I mean, that's one of Sean's lines, but like Cena still sells the scene and like all of his comedy within the episode. He's very, very good. So yeah, it is sad to just have him be like, I'm supposed to be Dom, but like, they didn't write it for me, but they didn't cast a character who was Dom either. Yeah, and they didn't stylize it enough. Like, he's always doing like a scowl, like very gloomy. Like, it's kind of like how Carl Urban played Dredd. And it's just like, but this isn't the time or place for that. It's not stylized enough. So I'm not even putting it on Cena. It's definitely the direction Cena was given. He was told to be like, play it this way. Play it really flat, really dour. And he plays it like that, and it just doesn't really work. Yeah, it feels like kind of everything is directed just a little bit off. Not like awful, but I feel like everything is just a touch away from being great. Like, Space is just like tweaks away from being really fun and ridiculous. And it should be more fun because Roman's the one going up there, and he's the loud comedic character along with Ludacris, but it just doesn't quite hit ever. Yeah. And even like full sequences that feel like on paper, I'm like, this is ripe with comedy and I love this idea. Ramsey being forced to drive while literally all the other drivers are in the car. Like, Like, Dom's in the passenger seat and the other two guys are having a fight in the back, and Ramsey's being forced to drive this giant truck. And that should be hilarious. That should be the funniest scene we've ever seen. It should be like so high action because she's not a trained driver but has this giant vehicle. And also everyone else should be yelling at her because they're just so mad that she's the one in the driver's seat. But none of that really happens. It really is just a magnets bitches scene where she turns the magnets off and on.
I'm a half agree with you on this. I do find some joy in that scene.
I find some joy. I feel like it could be stellar, though.
I agree that where I agree with you, I think the magnets detract. I actually think it is a comedic scene, and I think it functions really well, and I'm actually kind of on board and laughing and having a great time. And then just the but also there's magnets kind of distracts me. Natalie Nathalie?
Let's say Nathalie.
Nathalie Emmanuel, who plays Ramsey, I think is phenomenal.
She's fun. No, she is selling it, but there's just something about the whole scene that's not coalescing together. She's not bantering with any of the three guys, even though they're all kind of there. The magnets are taking away from what's happening. It should just be her in a race with the guy in the blue car, who somehow isn't noticing this is happening behind him, by the way, which is funny as hell in its own way.
Which is funny, but they don't draw attention to that joke, but also it's who cares? I had a good time with the I don't know how to drive and everyone being you gotta drive, figure it out. I think that's pretty good. And also just the worst imaginable vehicle to learn to drive in.
Oh my God. I was having a panic attack on her behalf as someone who also doesn't have a license, and I've only driven cars. And I'm the idea of driving your first vehicle as a giant van with your friends in it who you could kill.
Yeah, attached with magnets, with city driving. I think it should be a double clutch with a weird transmission because it's a delivery fucking truck as well. So it's not even a normal vehicle. It's left-hand drive in London, but delivery trucks put the wheel on the opposite side. So it's an American wheel, right-hand drive delivery vehicle on a left-hand drive road. It is the worst. There's so much about that I find charming and fun. I agree with you, though. They don't play it up quite enough. And I agree with you, the magnets detract. But I do want to kind of backtrack for a moment to say that Ramsey is a phenomenal character, and Nathalie Emmanuel does a phenomenal job with this character. This was one of the things that I really appreciated in this movie was a couple of the performances, hers being one, where I'm every scene, even when she is one of the characters that gets given a lot of the gobbledygook, a lot of the exposition heavy gobbledygook. She is the one who has to be it's a satellite that can break into the mainframe through the hardwire network, causing the whole global infrastructure of the mainline hard down to flip-flop with a bunch of IP redirects. And she has to deliver just trash techno babble. And she somehow does it in a way where I'm fuck yeah, Ramsey, you're going to get us there. She is, there should, I think, be an Oscar category for actors who can deliver terrible exposition in a natural way.
It is an actual genuine skill.
1,000%.
And she is very good at it. You're right. She's captivating the whole time she's delivering gibberish.
Oh, yeah.
And you're listening and you're engaged, almost to the point where Roman's line about how I think you only sound smart because you're British. I'm maybe that's true. Maybe these lines with an American voice would just fall flat, and I'd think they sucked. But she really nailed it. And she did nail the comedy, and she just kind of pops in every scene. She's been popping since she showed up in 7.
She feels present in every scene. There's a handful of times in this franchise where you can tell that an actor improvised something, and some people don't react, and she does. And I'm you're not waiting for your line, even though your line is something that is probably one of the hardest ones to remember and hit. You are actively listening to your scene partners. And that's not something that everyone does in a blockbuster popcorn movie that is, a different style of production. So yeah, it's just such a unique skill set. And boy, does she do a phenomenal job with it.
She does. And judging from her past on Game of Thrones, which was such a dramatic show, I'm going to guess she's also a theater actor. She just feels like she is, as opposed to everyone else who is very much a movie actor in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think that might explain her her presence and her listening and how engaged she is. I also really like that. I will say I also really like that in this movie, the boys have stopped fighting over her and she just gets to be a character and part of the crew.
Love that as well.
That was a little tiring for 2 whole movies of like, who do you want, me or Tej? And I'm like, maybe there's a third option, guys, and you could just be her friend. And this one, they really genuinely are just her friend. And they don't hit on her at all, and it feels nice.
It does feel nice.
She just gets to be a character with agency.
Yeah. Yeah, and one that is a new one who adds something new. Where there's a little bit of crossover where her and Tej are both the tech person. Originally, I think he was supposed to be the engineering guy, and she was supposed to be the computer person. So it's but they've kind of just crossed in the night and melded into one character who can do any kind of tech-based stuff. So there's a little bit of a crossover there, but it's nice to have her have a function and a personality.
It is. I mean, well, she can't drive, so Ludacris will drive or do tech. But and I actually remember thinking why do we need 2 tech people back when she first got introduced? And I'm like, this is a movie with 7 people who drive cars. Why can't we have 2 tech people?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's enough to do. Sometimes one of you has to go to space and one of you has to stay on Earth. So you need at least 2 tech people. Minimum 2.
To separate them. And to kind of piggyback off of her, to continue with another positive as well.
Okay.
To piggyback off of her, Tej, played by Ludacris. One thing I was thinking this whole movie, so the woman who plays Ramsey had a great run on Game of Thrones and is someone who is working. Ludacris only does these movies. And what I find fascinating about this is that Ludacris is such an interesting personality that I'm like, you are were a phenomenal rapper. There was a 5-year span where you dropped 3 incredible albums. His flow is low key top 10. It's incredible. Then he's just I'm just gonna do fast movies, and he's only doing fast movies. And for a rapper who started out as a guy whose song was on the soundtrack for the first movie that he wasn't in, then became a lead in that series, he's good. He also delivers good comedy, naturalistic performance, good timing. He also gets not as much as Ramsey, but Tej gets some of the techno babble as well. And he's able to deliver that pretty naturally and pretty fluidly. So he does comedy as much as he does exposition. He doesn't get big dramatic moments, but there's enough in this where I'm I actually kind of don't know why Ludacris has not been cast as at least the 2nd or 3rd lead in another movie franchise, even if the other movie franchise isn't good, where I'm Tyrese is at least in Morbius. You gotta get Luda a Morbius, something. I'm just the whole time I'm watching this, I'm why isn't Luda in a Morbius, a Transformers, some other, here's a big blockbuster vehicle. We need someone who's kind of funny and who can deliver exposition in a way that's charming. Luda is great at this.
I agree. I actually have no problem with the fact that he's not out there Morbiusing like Tyrese is. If the options I had were, do you want to star in the biggest franchise in the world every 3 years and then make music in between, or kind of do some shitty Marvel stuff also every now and then, even though you didn't go out to be an actor in your life?
Yeah.
I think he is living his best life. Every year I make one fast movie.
Yeah.
I'm billionaire by this point probably, and I have so much time to make music. He doesn't need to morb.
He hasn't been making music in a while either, but I'm okay with that.
I guess you would know that. I just assume he's secretly making music.
I think it was just he had a hot series of albums, and then that's just kind of faded back. But I think he's just a man with a good work-life balance, maybe, who's for a while I would release one album every year to 2 years. Now I put out one movie every year to 2 years. It's just what a comfortable, but the fact that no one's seeking him out. I'm not saying it's why isn't Luda taking everything, but I'm why isn't there more fan castings, rumblings. Like, why don't I hear Luda's name more?
Well, I find the whole Furious franchise is a little interesting in that regard, except for like the main leads, like other than like Vin and maybe Michelle Rodriguez. It's like they're the biggest movies in the world and they make $1 billion, but no one is scrambling for the actors to be in anything else. Like Jordana Brewster doesn't do anything. Other than like Tyrese is doing Morbius for his secondary films. Like Ludacris is out there, and then like the guy who plays Han, I never see him in anything. Although I think he got a big lead recently.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I just still like you don't see them around. It feels like when people get a role on like a Star Trek series, and then they never work again.
Right.
Like they're that character. You're Janeway now. Sorry, Kate Mulgrew. We love you, but you'll never work again in anything else.
I can kind of see that. And I think that might be like, that's the strength and weakness here, is that part of the reason why these are such huge global blockbusters is the diversity of the cast is one of the big ones, where it's like there's so many people from different backgrounds and different global draws, where it's like every single cast member is like a 20% box office draw in some region of the world. And when you combine them all together, it's the biggest global hit that is goddamn imaginable. But none of them are enough to like fully anchor to be like, are you the biggest box office draw in the US? And they're not, but together it's just an unstoppable force.
Yeah, every global box office has someone who's hitting it up and making it bigger.
Yeah.
Now, if I may, I must go to a negative based off a positive you had a second ago. Because your positive was that Ramsey and Tej are both great at doing exposition. They're like, this gobbledygook exposition flows out of their mouths. And you actually are kind of interested. You want to know who's not good at exposition? Cardi B.
Whoa, baboo.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
When she had to say, here's the gun with the biometrics on it, that was painful.
His biometrics are encoded into the handle, which will allow you to track him globally. And you'll notice she is not on camera when she says it, because I can only imagine that took 1,000 takes.
Or she just went into the ADR booth later.
Also, I think entirely possible.
Just a scene that even on paper is garbage. A character you've never seen before, just revealing that they secretly were the police in this scene. And no one noticed all the cops were female.
Yeah.
Which is pretty statistically unlikely. I'm just going to throw that out there for cops.
Yeah. They were in like full SWAT, so it was like hard to make out, but whatever.
Still pretty tiny dudes.
Yeah. You can't give... Celebrity stunt casting is a thing that I'm never a big fan of in any circumstance. It always ages poorly. Now, she's not playing herself, which makes it a little better. It makes it a singer trying their first acting gig, which still isn't great. But you can't give the celebrity stunt casting the exposition lines.
You can't give her the Ramsey lines.
You can't. That should be literally illegal. Someone should have to go to jail for having given her those lines.
They gave Cardi B like 8 little sidekick ladies who were also cops, and one of them needed to say the biometrics gun line.
Yes.
She should have been like, this is Lacey, my tech girl.
This is my tech person.
I'm physical stuff. I don't know. But like you have to have a tech person, Cardi B. We need to get Cardi C in here and they're on tech.
We'll go down the full Cardi line.
I don't know what happened to Cardi A, where she is, what happened to her. But
Cardi A was involved in a cloning accident. Cardi A...
Cardi Zero just bottomed out and failed.
Yeah. They spilled something into the Petri dish that made Cardi A.
But that scene was wretched.
Yeah, truly miserable. And just didn't need to be there as well.
Not in any way. I believe Dom could just, I would much rather have had a scene where Dom fights 8 cops.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun? I'm like, how's he going to get out of this one? And just a person he didn't even know that was his friend was the one arresting him.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you didn't even plan this.
No, this is just pure luck. And then also just with a random button at the end to be like, go track him with this. Mm-hmm. All right, whatever. And then the gun really just kind of fades into the background. Another person who is not particularly good at delivering these lines as well is Bow Wow. Bow Wow has not... That's someone who's like, he was in the second movie, and now he's coming back with the Tokyo Drift guy and a third new character that we didn't need.
For a movie that is obsessed with bringing back old characters, I'm like, who's this third guy.
Yeah.
Why isn't this just Han or something?
Just make this someone else. They have like a whole series of scenes, which really could be condensed. And Bow Wow's lines are all delivered while he's not looking at the camera. And I'm like, I don't think you were able to get it when the camera was rolling. That's rough.
That whole crew is rough.
Yeah.
They have no chemistry. None of their jokes land. It's not entertaining. It's not funny. Like, I've rarely seen a crew of misfits not work. Like,
ooh. Oh, that is a great point and cold-bloodedly true.
And I will say, they feel like misfits, but they don't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they are a mismatched crew who just don't get along in the same way.
A Southern drift car driver, a West Coast mechanic, and then like a rocket scientist. And we're like, whoa, what do we got here?
What's their dynamic gonna be like? Whoa, 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 whoa. And it's kind of like they actually get along pretty well, but one of them has a Texas accent.
Yeah, they all just kind of politely wait for one another to deliver the lines that they were told to deliver that day on set.
There's no like Sunny in Philadelphia like talking over each other, like none of us work together well, but we manage it somehow.
Yeah.
It's pretty like by the numbers, we all just said the lines we were given.
And I think it is tough as well. It's tough and none of them rise to the occasion. But to be like, here are three people who are meant to have a rapport, who've probably had no audition time, who haven't worked together throughout the filming of this, who only have like a couple of days and don't have time to develop a sincere rapport or an ability to improvise with one another, or even just like enough takes or time or comfort on set. Like, you know, it might just be a like, you're running in, you gotta hit your mark and say your line. You're not the stars of this movie. Don't improvise, don't fuck around. We're trying to get out on time and under budget today. And it's just like, well, that kind of kills the vibes of this as well.
Yeah, the first scene we're introduced to them and we get like 5 minutes of just them, and then Roman and Tej show up. And you can feel this huge energy shift of two guys who like do work together, have chemistry, can draw attention in a scene and keep you like engaged. And you're just like, oh, that made it worse having the two guys who work show up and really who are a mismatched crew.
Yeah. I agree with that. And because so much of this franchise and when it works and why most of this movie doesn't work as much as the rest is that it is based on the strength of the core crew, like the family. Sometimes they're kind of muted, exposition heavy. Dom doesn't necessarily have the most lines, but it's just like the villains, the people who pop in are huge and big and bombastic and fun. And that crew wasn't that. But then you have people like Helen Mirren, who
Helen
you're
Mirren
like,
was fun.
You're like Helen Mirren coming back again. And Helen Mirren is an 8,000% fun, and Helen Mirren doing a Cockney accent, which is a thing I've never heard her do. Like just Helen Mirren doing, hey, it's me. I'm doing a different accent. I don't often get to be a cool, badass action lady in a blockbuster popcorn movie. So I'm bringing 1,000,000% to this performance and having fun. And then like people like Kurt Russell, who doesn't get much to do in this movie, but
you know he's crushing it.
Yeah, and to talk about like previous movies of like we have The Rock, we have Jason Statham. These people who are like, I'm here, I'm fun, we're fucking doing it. And then in this one, it's like you've got characters like young Jacob, played by or no, not young Jacob is just the young version of Jacob. But what is his name? The
bad guy, Otto.
Otto. You have characters like Otto, who's just whatever. It's not really anything.
Otto felt like a sidekick villain, like John Cena was supposed to be the main, and then Otto, I was like, for a sidekick villain, you're fun enough. But then you betray John Cena, and I'm like, John Cena was the main. You're not a man who betrays. Mm-hmm. You're a little like sidekicky man. You're crushing it as a sidekicky man as far as that goes. But yeah, he was not an imposing, memorable, anything type of villain.
No, and like that weird, impossible level of like it's big, but it's not so big that it's fun and bawdy and like wild. Where it's just like you're just like a little bit above acting well, and it's not in that uncanny valley where it's like it's too big but not big enough at the same time.
Yeah, and also like I feel like the dialogue wasn't helping him any. Just like so many lines about how he's just using his dad's money, and I'm like, Oh, so should I be scared of your dad? Like, I just don't fear you in any way.
Yeah.
But apparently you're the main villain of this movie.
Because we also have the return of Charlize Theron as Cypher.
I love her as Cypher.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
I like Charlize Theron. I think she knows how to be big while being quiet. Which is very difficult.
I agree.
I don't blame. And the haircut's so bad.
Okay,
that's not acting ability. That's a haircut.
Let's cast that aside right now. Let's just get it out of the way and say whoever gave her that haircut or said it was okay to have that in this film franchise, straight to prison. Straight to prison. We agree with that. We get it out of the way and move on.
I think it's a slightly bit above of the dreads she had in 8. Which were culturally inappropriate. This is culturally appropriate. She's talking to some managers.
I understand that, but every haircut she has had in this franchise, straight to prison is what I'm saying to the people who gave her and approved that haircut.
This is why she keeps going to prison in these movies. If she had a good haircut, she'd get away.
But aside from that, I agree with you. I think Charlize is an actress who can and does know the difference between like acting, having fun, playing it big. I think she can do that, but I don't see it from her in this.
I see it from her, especially because like she is finding things in scenes where John Cena and Otto are not finding things. Like she's the most entertaining part of the scenes she's in easily. So I think that shows a real killer actress at work. Like, I don't think she's, like, the best part of this movie, but I'm like, I do like Cypher. I do like Cypher.
Wow.
And I like that she doesn't become part of the crew because they adopt too many villains into the crew. And I like when a villain is just, like, stays with
I like that she is just true. Yeah, I do like that she is just truly unsalvageable.
Yeah,
that's
she will never be. I mean, she killed Dom's son's wife, Elsa Pataki. Pataki?
Pataki, I believe. Yeah.
So, like, she won't be forgiven. Although we also accepted Statham into the family when we thought Han was still dead. So, you know, we have our limits that we'll reach, apparently, into welcome to the familyness.
Orphan, apparently, creating Orphan is that limit. Yeah. So that's where she's at. So, okay, I'm Cypher for you, though. I'm glad that you enjoy Charlize in this particular piece.
And I will say, and on that same track, a thing that bothers me about this movie is that, like, we bring Jacob back into the family just because he got betrayed. He never has a change of heart or thinks he was wrong. He just gets betrayed by Otto, and they're like, oh, they're trying to kill him. And maybe they think he had a change of heart, and that's why they're like, oh, he must have turned on Otto. I bet he changed his mind. But really, Otto's just like, yeah, I'm going to kill you. I'm working with Cypher now. He's the exact same guy he was the whole movie.
He is. I think it was... I kind of buy into the bringing him into the fold to be like it is a level of like forgiveness. It's your Guardians of the Galaxy James Gunn theme. Everyone deserves a second chance. So I think it is a combination of that. I agree that they see him fighting on the roof and they, for no other reason, just decide to save him. But I think that just saving him for the sake of saving him is the reason. And then he gets
is actually family, which helps.
And he gets to explain what the real situation behind the father's death was, which is a little bit tying itself in a knot to kind of relieve him of the burden, but it at least then kind of falls into like you give someone a chance. Communication is actually what brings you all together. It's not that like, yes, he hasn't changed. He's a dude who, you know, took a job and did a bad thing, a thing that all of the people in this crew did and have done and will do again. So it's like whatever on that, but communication was what cleared it up.
All right, maybe that's a little bit it. But yeah, that bothered me. Although I do really like the callback of years ago a man gave me a 10-second car and a second chance to like Brian in the first movie. That was lovely. That was like one of the only moments where I was like, and you know, Paul Walker passing away makes all those moments hit a little harder.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say a huge positive for me, and like the only thing that makes me feel things in this movie is how steadfast they are and that his character is alive in universe.
Yeah.
I think that's really nice, actually. Like it makes me cry, but I'm also like, this is like a really nice part of his legacy that they're like, no, Brian's alive.
And he is alive, and also it kind of works and aligns with his character as well. It'd be like, he's the dude who was never fully into crime. He was literally a cop who learned that criminals are real people, but he just wants to be a father and be off with his kids.
And he's the one who protects the kids now as we do our missions. And I'm like, that absolutely tracks of like where he is. I love this as just like an explanation of why we never see Brian. He's at home with the kids.
They have really done a wonderful and tasteful job with handling this character and the actors on timely passing. It's really lovely, really inspiring, and occasionally emotionally manipulative, but successful in doing so and still tasteful in doing so.
Yeah, it's not emotionally manipulative in a way that is them manipulating us. It is just them being like, and this is where we acknowledge Brian.
Yeah.
In honor of our friend Paul.
Yeah, it feels like what they sincerely want to do and a thing that makes me sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm on board with that. One other aspect of this movie is the flashback to young Dom and Jacob at the racetrack where their father died through an elaborate series of whoopsie doodles.
I'll get into that in a minute. But what point are you getting to?
No, I'm just curious how you feel about all the flashback stuff.
I think the guy playing young Dom is crushing it.
He's doing a really good job.
He's really far down the cast list for some reason, considering he has a lot of lines.
But he does a great job.
Vinny Bennett
does a phenomenal job of like matching Vin Diesel's kind of energy, and especially in the earlier movies.
Yeah, his like quiet strength, but his like confidence and his ability of like, I know racing and I know this track, but I love my family and I'm intense and I'm strong. Like he does a great young Vin. It's also hilarious that like the flashbacks are literally the age Vin Diesel was in the first movie because it's been 20 years. So that's crazy as well. But yeah, I think he does a really good job. And also Judd from 911 Lone Star is in this briefly, and we love him.
Little cameo from the guy who plays Judd. We love him,
from 911 Lone Star. But yeah, I think other than the guy playing Dom, I don't love them just because I think the whole storyline is dumb in a way that it's not supposed to be. I'm like, you have to break your car to throw a race? Just throw the race. There's like 30 guys and they're all pretty fast.
Right.
I think you could just take your foot off the gas.
Just be a little bit less fast.
And just kind of fall back a little. Why do you have to open up your pipeline so you might explode to explain why this isn't a one-on-one boxing match?
Yeah.
It's like 50 guys out here.
Yeah.
It's so dumb to me. I don't know if it's like a real thing that happens in racing, but there's like the internal logic was just so flawed to me that I was like, just lose. Just lose without dying.
I have no idea if it's a real thing, but the internal logic didn't bother me. Or I'm like, maybe for an insurance reason, he needed to have a car issue in order. I don't know what the fuck. So I was just like, yeah, whatever. You needed to throw it by doing classic sports movie thing. You had to do something shady in order to throw a thing, and whoopsie doodle, things got worse. I think that like generally it's doing a lot of backflips to solve weird things that don't really need solving.
Yeah, like why the brother's been gone, why they fought.
Exactly. You could have just be like, I've got an estranged brother. He left after dad died. He's back. Whoa. That could be it, because there's not enough heart and emotion in this early stuff to make it worthy of being in this movie. It's not enough where I'm like, that's the backbone, that's the theme, that's the lesson. We need these flashbacks. I'm just like, the flashbacks are really just a long-winded and kind of time-filling way of explaining why John Cena's in the movie. And you could really just have John Cena walk in and say, "Hi, I'm Dom's brother. We're estranged." And that could be 100% of it.
Yeah, and I couldn't understand if he was his half-brother or not. Because they kept talking about, like, you've got Nordic genes and Dom doesn't. And I'm like, and also they don't look like quite the same. I'm like, is that part of the backstory? Like, you're half brothers and that's why you're away all the time? That's where you went?
I also feel like that was just a series of sloppy dialogue choices to explain why they cast someone who does not look at all like him or the same ethnicity.
He's physically the same size, but you're clearly not the same, like, two parents, maybe one parent.
I'm like, I don't know if we needed to hang a lantern on it this much. Yeah. There was a lot of lantern hanging there.
For a movie that kind of doesn't work as a whole, they spend so much time on those little tiny details that were so unnecessary.
Sure.
Like, yeah, you're right. The entire flashbacks, all like 25 minutes of them are just to explain, like, Dad asked me to. That's all that it was. Dad asked me to fix the car that way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's literally the entire, all you need. And like, he could have just said that.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that it's also, the flashback stuff is kind of sloppy that Mia doesn't exist as well, because like when Mia shows up in this movie,
one of the young girls was her that was with tank top Vince. I think there was a young Mia cast.
Oh, okay.
I look kind of like her.
Sure. But when Mia shows up in this movie and Mia's like, oh, yeah, no, I also remember my estranged brother. I'm like, no, we can't be like this. You can't. And then like Dom forgives him and she's like, actually, we did stay in touch for a while. I'm like, no, like you need to either like this needs to be the amount of attention you give to everyone or no one. You know what I mean? Like Dom and Mia can both be like, yeah, I've got an estranged brother or whatever. But you can't be like Dom gets a million flashbacks and Mia doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
You've got to like put them both in the same style and storyline.
I love how devoted you are to giving Mia agency and storylines.
Mia deserves some fucking justice.
Like, there's not that many ladies in this franchise. They're getting a little bit better. They're adding more every movie. But, like, yeah, Mia has never had any characteristics. Mia has always been there just to be Brian's love interest and Dom's sister and never her own character. And you're right. In this movie, she is still that exact same thing. Yeah. She is no one's linchpin. She is, and she's like not a bad actress.
No, and I would actually.
I think she's getting better with each movie.
I was about to say the exact same thing. She's consistently improving in each movie. In this one, it's like, again, not given a lot of writing of substance, but I'm like, your ability to just react and your facial and your range of facial expressions are funny and charming and sell a lot of things that you should be given dialogue to do that work with. But you've gotten a lot better at kind of showing up to this franchise and being like, I know I'm not going to be given dialogue to work with. So what can I do with my face that says I know about my estranged brother? And yes, this is a crazy scenario and we're going to space later today. So, which is a big facial reaction to have to give. But she's gotten better with every movie and can do that now.
Yeah, and also shout out to Michelle Rodriguez who called out that these movies didn't have enough for the women to do.
I love that.
Yeah, to the point where Justin Lin was like, so I wrote a scene where her and Mia have lunch, and I guess I could never delete it. He seemed kind of like he didn't want to put it in there.
That is all. I also saw that interview, and it was a very shitty attitude about it.
It was a shitty way of phrasing that I let Letty and Mia have their own adventure in Tokyo in their own moment, and I didn't want to, and I wasn't allowed to cut it. And I'm like, it really was the only time Mia has felt like a character.
Yeah. Having a quiet lunch, it did feel right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
So,
but yeah, I don't know why.
Shout out to Michelle Rodriguez on that one.
Yeah, and I don't know why Justin Lin was shitty about it.
It was a 30-second scene.
Yeah. Yeah, and also just don't be shitty to your cast members in the press as well. To be like, I guess I have to put in a scene with two women talking because Michelle had to say something in an interview. It's like, you're saying something in an interview.
Yeah, now you're
being
the one
pithy.
Saying it.
She was at least being pithy in an interview for the right reasons.
Yeah,
you're doing it for the wrong.
About a problem that most movies have. That female characters don't have agency or pass the Bechdel test. That an ensemble movie should pass the Bechdel test.
100%. Yeah, I've seen a couple interviews with Michelle where I'm like, I really like and admire your honesty about this stuff.
Yeah, the Dungeons and Dragons one about how she's like, I always come back to life because they don't give me love interest and that's why they kill me. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Just flat out. Yeah, some random Dungeons and Dragons one. She said that shit. And also there was another interview I saw with her where someone was like, let's talk about Lost. And she was like, yeah, when I signed up, I really hoped they weren't going to do the purgatory thing, and they did that. And I think that's kind of a bummer. It was kind of sloppy writing. I was hoping for a little bit more. Really fun. A lot of talented people worked on that, though. That was a really good time. I'm like, whoa, that's no one talks about their past projects like that. So there's an earnestness to her that I do really appreciate, and I think that she does a really good job as this character as well.
I mean, she's always crushed this. I mean, we talked about her deeply in our Fast and the Furious Patreon episode about how she is so young in the first one, but she's been such a strong badass. I think since she came back I haven't seen 4, but from 5 on, or is she only alive in 6? Michelle Rodriguez, whenever you're around, I think you're cool. Mm-hmm. I think you're a cool lady. I'm going to get nitpicky about the plot again.
Lay it on me.
It bothers me.
Lay it on me.
So this Ares thing can hack anything.
Yes.
And it's just a stupid MacGuffin.
Uh-huh.
But also it got invented 8 years ago, and it still fucking works? We don't have a firewall against an 8-year-old MacGuffin? Because Han steals it when that girl's a kid.
Yeah.
So apparently he's been hiding it for at least 6 years, it feels like. She's really young.
It's future-proof. It's compatible with all future technology. It's just that good.
It has, like, the only way to use it is to make it float in a case. That's not how any technology works.
And also the fact that Mr. Nobody King Solomon'd it and was like, cut the baby in two.
Hey, I like that. That protects it. I think that's smart.
Just destroy it.
Yeah, destroying it would be
If you're not going to use it, you could also just destroy it because it's a physical, non-magical object. It is made of metal, motherboards, circuitry. You could just lay it in a fire and it's done.
Yeah, it is weird that, like, every time a movie has a thing that's like, it's so powerful, we have to hide it away. It's like, just destroy it.
Destroy it.
If you're not going to use it.
If it's not magic. When it's magic, obviously, now we're dealing with magical shit. If it's not magic, just destroy it.
Just destroy it.
Just destroy it.
And if Mr. Nobody had this whole time, then I'm like, why didn't you use it in 7 to find Jason Statham who had the God's Eye? Why don't we just pop this thing on anytime? Although, you know what? Mr. Nobody was very good to not use it.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of integrity.
He showed some restraint.
I don't know if he's dead or alive. He's probably alive. We didn't see a body. I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
They've really made
Literally,
that unclear.
Michelle Rodriguez had a line of dialogue of like, where is everyone? As they're in a plane wreck that a fight happened in. So, yeah, maybe he'll be around. And God, I hope he is.
He better be. I love Kurt Russell. Another person who's just popping in small roles, like, obviously.
And I think he is in a sweet spot as well, where like he is in that like that Helen Mirren-esque shit in this Helen Mirren in this movie. Like he is just like, I'm showing up, I'm having fun, fuck it, we're having a good time. And I think he's also just kind of rocking that in his career right now as well. Like even the like Guardians Volume 2, where he's just like, I'm showing up. It's a little bit blockbustery. It's a little bit popcorn. There's not a lot of pressure or stress because I don't give a fuck anymore, but I give enough of a fuck that I want to find a joy and a fun in it. Like I have found why this role is fun, but I'm not feeling any pressure from studios. I'm above this. Like I love it when a actor late career has that type of power, but still playful passion, and I'm like, fuck yeah. Get out there, have fun. Helen Mirren, steal a goddamn necklace. Kurt Russell, you're a fucking planet now. Have fun, my friends.
It does feel nice to be like, I'm gonna have fun. I'm not gonna be the lead. I don't even have to do press if I don't want to. I'm just genuinely working. It feels like Hugh Grant has also reached this recently.
It's a new one. Hugh Grant only flicked that switch on this year.
Yeah, like it was Dungeons and Dragons and that Amazon Prime direct to one we saw where he was playing the billionaire and he was having a great time. That movie was very mediocre, but he was having a great time.
Yeah.
Whatever that movie was called, Dangerous Liaisons or something.
Something. Not that, but it was something like that. And then also I think like The Gentleman was the other one. I think Guy Ritchie was like, you want to just fuck around? And Hugh Grant was like, I actually do.
I do want to just fuck around now, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. Don't make me the lead.
Don't make me the lead.
Don't you, please. I don't want to do press. I'm bad at it.
I want to be third build and not have to do anything and fuck around.
If I'm not even on the poster, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'd love to not be on the poster.
A new switch for him, though. This is a new gear for this guy.
So I don't know when you reach that point, but there's definitely a bunch of actors who have reached the point of like, I'm going to do fun, silly things.
I love that.
I'm happy for them.
I'm so happy for them.
Fun, silly things for them.
All right. Well, I'm feeling pretty good on F9 The Fast Saga. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, we didn't get into like some other stuff about just
what
basics.
Kind of other stuff?
Just like the action sequences don't work, but I don't have any fixes for them or any specific notes about why they don't work.
I also feel kind of similar. The action sequences are a little bit like bland almost feels like too harsh a word. They're not bland, but there is some third heat. There is an X factor that is just kind of missing from the action scenes.
Which is weird because like directed by Justin Lin, who like has done these and is good at these, but also, and like they're good ideas on paper, like having to go so fast through a minefield that the mine doesn't blow up till you're past it. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Everything with magnets is a cool idea. And like there's so many neat ideas in this, but none of them make me go, wow. And I don't know what the X factor that's missing is. And I feel like I can't complain about it if I don't have a fix. It feels very negative of me, but I don't know what's wrong about them, but they just don't work.
Yeah. I'm very much with you. And you know, we're allowed to nitpick and complain about whatever we want to, but I understand we do typically like to know why, and we do typically like to have some kind of a like, what if it was this? But it really is just a like, and it's not bad.
It's not bad.
But it's just, there's just a heat that's missing.
Yeah, when you've recently watched the other Furious movies, you're like, why isn't the magic here?
Yeah.
Because even the things that we said are missing, like The Rock and Jason Statham, that doesn't apply to the action sequences.
And I think maybe there's a chance that it might just be attention to detail as well. Because like Justin Lin does better action in the previous Fast movies that are directed by him. And I think this was filmed like the same year that he was also filming Aquaman as well. Ooh. And I think it might just be that like a hot director blowing up pretty consistently for a while, reaching bigger and bigger heights, now having a moment in his career where two of the biggest budget, highest pressure studio action pieces that he's ever made are happening simultaneously, back to back, or really on top of one another. And it just neither ended up getting the attention to detail that allowed him to do better work previously. You know, it might just be a matter of workload. Yeah, maybe that's all it is. Didn't have the time to get the fine details down about what makes a great action sequence as opposed to a good action sequence. Yeah, because 5 and 6 have great ones. 5 and 6 are great. I mean, 5 especially. Oh, that's our fave. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? But before we do ask this final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get your podcasts. Make sure you're subscribed. I know not all of you are. Some of you are just like, I'm going to go find it every week, which is a wild choice, but you live your life. But please do hit that subscribe because it helps us move up the charts. And then if you leave us a rating and review, that also helps us move up in the algorithm and makes it more likely we get recommended to new listeners. And when new listeners find us, those reviews make it more likely that they'll actually hit download and give us a try. So what we're saying is we need your help. You got to subscribe. You got to leave a review. If you got time and if it's in your heart, we'd love it if it's in your heart for you to leave us a 5-star review because then it'll be in our hearts. We would love that from your hearts to our hearts. And as well, if you want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that by visiting our Patreon page. Patreon is a monthly subscription service where you can subscribe at whatever level you choose. You get to choose what is in your budget and subscribe at that. And you can get different levels of cool bonuses for doing so. Even if you sign up at $1 a month, which those $1 add up and honestly are how we keep this network running, how we keep the podcast happening, how we eat food and live as human beings. So if you have $1 in your budget, do that. That is awesome. Those really add up, and you get our webcomic a day early. We have a new level now. At the $3 level, you will get this podcast early and ad-free. So you get it early and ad-free at the $3 level. And at the $10 level, you get a bonus episode of this podcast every single month, like the one that we just did on The Fast and The Furious, which is the first movie. And when you sign up at the $10 level, you also get all of the previous Patreon episodes. Yeah, and you get all the lower levels below that. So if you're a $10 patron, you will get the $3 early release ad-free episode. So if you want to know how we feel about Fast X the Thursday it comes out, you can, because it will be released the day it comes out. A crazy amount of spoiler-free action coming your way at the $3 level. Hot stuff. Hot level. Hot stuff. Hot new level just dropped. Hot new level just dropped. So go check us out at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And thank you to all of our current and future patrons. Thank you so much, patrons. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change? Since I can't figure out what's wrong with the action sequences, I'm going to change John Cena. Because John Cena is capable of so much that it feels like a real waste of him. So I want him to be more fun. I think if he wants to get out from Dom's shadow, he should not be exactly like Dom. He should be like, I'm energetic, and I'm not like Dom at all. Like, I feel like a lot of siblings are like that. It's like, I'm going to rebel against my sibling by not being like them. Like, he can still like cars, although he doesn't drive all that much. I think he zip lines more than he drives in this car. Yeah. Make him a pilot. Make him something, but make him like more fun and bolsterous and like a little bit more bantery and fun, like more Rock style or more Jason Statham style, like what he's capable of. And I'm also going to make him. I don't like the quick switch of just I got it betrayed and now I'm on your team. So I am actually going to make him think he's the good guy through this movie.
he thinks they're stealing Ares so, like, the governments don't have it, so that, like, they can't take over, because the government's definitely going to use it eventually or something. He has no idea that Otto's going to, like, shoot it into space and use it. He thinks they're the good guys. And he's like, hey, Dom, I'm out from your shadow. I'm a good guy. But, like, clearly we know he's not. But, like, Otto's making sure they can never talk. That's why Dom gets arrested immediately as soon as he gets to Jacob. That's why they are never allowed to spend any time together, so Jacob doesn't find out he's a bad guy. And then I think the switch at the end works better for me when he's betrayed because he's like, what are you doing? Uploading it to the sky or something. So I'm going to just make him more fun and like more energetic and more like John Cena. And I'm going to make him think he was the good guy the whole time.
Huh.
And that's my change.
I like that. I like that. I like that. I think I would probably go at least like neutral for him, but like good guy to neutral. Definitely not
As
I know
good-
I'm the bad guy.
As good as Dom is. Dom doesn't think he's the good guy the whole time. In that way, he is like Dom. He's like, I'm not a perfect man, but I'm trying to do what's right or something. I don't
love
know.
that.
Yeah. And he's still jealous of like Dom's family because he sees them all be a family when he's in that jail cell, which I think is a moment that isn't kind of tagged on enough of him like seeing what Dom has.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of a nice moment. But yeah, I just want him to be bigger and funnier, and I want him to be more redeemable.
I love that. Let John Cena be John Cena. Let him play.
That's why you hire John Cena. Like, I feel like he's going to watch Momoa in this next one and be like, come on, I could have done that. I could have done what Momoa is clearly doing in these trailers for Fast X.
Momoa looks like, I'm very excited to see all of the things that Momoa is doing. Yes.
So I feel like John Cena's got to be like, come on, that could have been me. So those are my changes. Andrew, what's your change?
I love it. I'm on board with that. My big change is that I think that John Cena's character, Jacob should be locked in a secret battle with Han the entire movie.
Whoa, what do you mean?
So I think that like this whole movie, they keep playing up these two elements of who's the man in the shadows.
Yeah,
and
okay.
with Dom, it's like, oh, I think it's Jacob. Is it Jacob? And then they like, I have an estranged brother. There's a secret man that nobody knows about who's actually part of this. And then they do the same thing with Han to be like, who's protecting this girl? Who's looking after the key? Who is this? And even in the opening sequence where they have that, like they find the plane and they have a shootout, there's one guard who's about to shoot Tyrese's character and get shot by a sniper from a distance. And I'm not even sure if that was Jacob or Han, but I really like the idea of this lead cast of characters, our fast crew, our fast family, trying to track down this item while there's two other shadow merchants trying to track it down. And one's Jacob and one's Han. And then you get these fun elements added to scenes where like Tyrese is like, I think I'm immortal. Everyone just dropped dead. When in reality, Han and Jacob are both sniping these guys so they can come in and get the thing once everyone's chased away. Mm-hmm. Like, I like this kind of an idea of like a slightly farcical, but also like conflux of events of like Han, who's trying to protect this woman and redeem the fact that her family has died and like help her, is chasing after these things while Jacob is chasing after them. And then it all kind of meets in the middle, as opposed to having these totally separate and completely like imprisoned storylines where no one knows about one another. If it was like Han shows up and Jacob shows up and two people who we didn't know existed are now in the room and they're both like, you guys know this person, as they point at one another. Like that, I think creates a fun energy as well.
What a big day for Dom. Your brother and Han are both here.
Yeah.
That's a fun idea. That's really neat. I can see that. It's kind of a big reworking of the movie, I think, but it's fun and it works. And it gives, I actually didn't think Tyrese's guys got sniped. I thought he was just like that lucky for some reason. One of them definitely seemed like he got sniped, but they didn't shoot to a sniper anywhere.
They shot to like a boot getting out of a car, but didn't show who that was, but it could have been anyone else. But there was one point where Tyrese isn't even holding a gun.
And one guy falls.
And one guy falls getting shot.
I do remember that. And I was like, I don't know.
What are we trying to tell now?
Yeah, but I don't know why John Cena would have been helping Tyrese survive. Han, yes.
But Han...
But I see what you're saying. That's the fun of it.
But that idea of like dueling snipers, of being like someone's shooting at us, and then like some of the other people on the team being like, I think someone's shooting for us. To be like, there's two people shooting right now. Someone's shooting at the guards and someone's shooting at us. What the fuck is going on? And having two shadow agents also chasing for the same thing, I think would be fun.
That would be fun. That's a fun idea.
Thanks.
That's a fun like premise. Like a lot of the other things in the movie that are like, oh, that's a fun idea, and I hope you execute it well.
Yeah.
Execute it well.
Yeah. Playfully combative anti-heroes throughout the movie. It worked for Hobbs and Shaw. Just do that again.
And also, I feel like sniping is a thing we haven't done in the franchise yet.
Yeah.
So that is a fun idea of like, now there's 2 snipers. Like how there's 2 tech guys.
That could be fun.
I like it.
Sweet. Well, I think we did it. I think we had a lot of fun. We nitpicked a lot of things, and we fixed it. And watching this again gave me an appreciation for some of the actors. So that's a good time as well. And we're going to be back next week to talk about more Fast Family. We'll be talking about Fast X.
That's the 10th one.
The 10th one. I don't know if they want it to be called Fast X or Fast 10. I have not looked into that.
Is the tagline like Fast 10 your seatbelt or something? Should be if it's not.
That's not fucking bad.
I hope I didn't just steal that from them. I hope I did.
If you stole it, they did good work. If you made it up just now, you've done great work.
I feel like that's seated in the back of my head somewhere.
I'm having a great time.
But either way, it's a great tagline.
So we're going to be talking about that next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me at Words of Diana on Twitter. Don't tweet much anymore, but I'm there. I'll see ya.
She's there, y'all. And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes, and you can visit FromSuperheroes.com to find all the podcasts on the network, our webcomic articles, and so much more. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.